One of the most talked about moments in the newest episode of Invincible is the brutal rematch between Invincible and Conquest. And if you've seen it, you know that it's hard to watch, to say the least. Every punch feels enormously heavy. Bones break, blood spills. The fight goes on far longer than most superhero battles usually do. And strangely enough, that's exactly why people can't stop talking about it. Critics praise it, fans analyze it, because something about watching a hero suffer while refusing to give up resonates deeply with us. But here's the question: why? Why do stories of brutal sacrifice hit us so powerfully? Why does the image of a wounded hero refusing to stop feel almost sacred? And what if the reason is that these stories are echoing something far older than comic books? Because the most brutal story ever told isn't fiction. It's one of the most historically documented events of the ancient world: the crucifixion of Jesus Christ. Welcome back to the Road Between Realities. In this video, we're going to be talking about Christ's crucifixion and the story of his resurrection, and the impact that this story has not just within religious spaces, but within culture as a whole. Now, if you've watched Invincible, you already know this isn't your typical superhero universe. There are no clean victories, no painless battles. When Invincible fights Conquest, it's not just a clash of strength, it's suffering. Conquest is stronger, more experienced, and worst of all, he enjoys the destruction. He enjoys the pain. And throughout the fight, Mark is pushed beyond his limits. He gets beaten down, again and again and again. Bones crack, blood pours out. At multiple points, it looks like he simply can't continue. And yet, he keeps getting back up. Not because he enjoys fighting, but because if he stops, other people might get hurt and possibly even die. Moments like this force us to ask something about ourselves. Why does sacrifice move us so deeply? Why does the image of a wounded hero refusing to give up feel almost sacred? If this fight were just violence for the sake of violence, it wouldn't stick with us the same way. Plenty of stories are violent, but the ones that move us are the ones where suffering has purpose. The hero who bleeds for others, the hero who refuses to abandon the people they're trying to save. Something inside us recognizes the beauty of that sacrifice, and the Bible actually speaks about the deeper meaning behind suffering. In Romans chapter 5 verses 3 and 4, it says, "We rejoice in our sufferings, knowing that suffering produces endurance, and endurance produces character, and character produces hope." Suffering that leads to love, protection, and sacrifice becomes meaningful, and that pattern reaches its ultimate expression in the story of the cross. Now here's the harsh reality of the ancient Roman crucifixion. For some people today, the crucifixion might sound like just another religious story, but historically speaking, Roman crucifixion was very real. It was one of the most brutal execution methods the ancient world ever created. Victims were first scourged, whipped with lashes embedded with bone and metal. The whipping alone could leave muscle and bone exposed, and they were forced to carry a wooden crossbeam through public streets. Nails were driven through the wrists and feet, and the victim would slowly suffocate as their body collapsed under its own weight. Death could take hours, sometimes even days. This wasn't symbolic suffering. It was public, humiliating, and unimaginably painful. And the execution of Jesus Christ is not only recorded in the Bible. Ancient historians that worked underneath the Roman governor Pontius Pilate at the time recorded that at one point a man named Jesus was executed under the Roman governor. In other words, the cross isn't just theology, it's history. But what makes the crucifixion even more powerful is this: Jesus didn't endure it because he was powerless. According to the gospel accounts, he chose it. Scripture reminds us in Hebrews chapter 12, verse 2, "Let us fix our eyes on Jesus, who for the joy set before him endured the cross." Notice those words in that verse. He endured suffering willingly, not because he loved pain, but because he loves humanity. He loves his creation. The cross wasn't a defeat. It was an act of sacrificial love. And that's where the connection to stories like Invincible become fascinating, because the deeper conflict in the story isn't just physical, it's philosophical. You see, the Viltrumites believe something very simple: the strong exist to rule the weak. Characters like Conquest see compassion as weakness, mercy as foolishness, power as a means of domination. But Invincible refuses to accept that worldview, even when he's beaten nearly to death, time and time again, even when rage would be easier, even when it would be easier for him to give in to the rage and to his dark side. He keeps trying to do better and protect others, to use his power for good. He refuses to become what his enemies are. And that tension echoes something Jesus taught 2,000 years ago. In Matthew chapter 20, verses 25 through 28, Jesus told his followers, "You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord it over them. Not so with you." Then he says something revolutionary. "Whoever wants to become great among you must be your servants." You see, true power isn't domination. True power is sacrificial love. And the earliest Christians didn't just claim Jesus died. They claimed he rose again. In 1 Corinthians chapter 15, the Apostle Paul writes that the risen Christ appeared to more than 500 witnesses. These weren't claims whispered in secret. They were proclaimed publicly, even when it led to persecution. Something convinced ordinary people that they had seen the risen Christ. Something transformed frightened followers into bold witnesses who would spread their message across the Roman Empire. And whether someone approaches that claim with faith or skepticism, one thing is undeniable. The story of the cross changed the course of history. And maybe that's why stories like Invincible resonate so deeply. Because again and again, storytelling returns to the same idea: the hero who suffers, the hero who sacrifices, the hero who refuses to abandon the people they're trying to save. These stories move us because they echo something real. Because the greatest act of sacrificial love in history wasn't fiction. It was the moment Jesus Christ endured suffering to rescue humanity. And every story where a hero bleeds for others reminds us of the cross. And that is the mission here at the Road Between Realities.